The Redhawks all-conference shooting guard is going to join us as well a little bit later on in the show. And we want to remind you that they have a revamped menu here at Wings Etc. Of course, they still have their award-winning jumbo wings for both dine-in, carry-out, or delivery. More on that in a moment. But they have revamped their entire menu, including their outstanding burger menu. They've got a brand-new mushroom and Swiss burger that you can order. They have wraps, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, smoked ribs, and much more. And if you're checking out their appetizer lineup, might we suggest the ultimate nachos? They also have deep fried pickle chips here at Wings Etc. Their daily half-pound lunch specials start at just $7.99, and not only can you now order online at Wings Etc., but you can also have it delivered. You can get it delivered right to your front door. Just use the DoorDash app. Download that onto your smartphone or your tablet, and you set up an account, and DoorDash will bring Wings Etc. right to your front door. It's Wings Etc., home of the Redhawks Coaches Show. Good food and great times. And we want to pass this along. The next home game for the Redhawks, and we'll talk much more about the Evansville Purple Aces, is going to be on Wednesday. And before the game on Wednesday, you can come and get your picture taken with Santa Claus. He will be at the game, so the kids can get their pictures taken with Santa. Bill Goshi can get his picture taken with Santa on the SEMO Redhawks inflatable couch. And make sure you bring a stuffed animal to the game, because at halftime they will have the Happy Slapowitz teddy bear toss. So you bring a new stuffed animal, toss it onto the court during halftime, and all of the stuffed animals will be collected and they'll be donated to Toys for Tots. So that's going to be a fun time. That'll be the Evansville game coming up on Wednesday. Let's welcome in Redhawks basketball coach Brad Korn. You going to get your picture taken with Santa?
Hopefully I get a picture taken after a win in the locker room with the team.
Okay.
But, yeah, Santa's an important guy in our house, so I'm sure my kids will be excited for that.
Yeah, there is a company called Portable North Pole. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but when my kids were little, you can get a video that Santa will make for your child with their name. You get him a few pictures, and he includes the pictures in the video. Man, it's legit. So you might want to Google Portable North Pole and
make a mental note of that.
Oh man, I'm telling you, that was, they were so excited. I mean, we did it multiple years, and you could not see kids more excited. They got an actual video with him saying their name from Santa Claus. So.
Portable North Pole, I got it.
All right, so you come off a victory over Webster University, and I think it's interesting how people may not have known how the game with Webster came about, because Brady Barkey, the director of athletics, that's his alma mater, and that's kind of how that game came to be.
Yeah, we just it just was the time. We knew coming back from Texas with the 3 games in 3 days, it gave us that whole week to kind of get back ready physically, mentally. Just kind of we were trying to get a different type of a game in that slot on a Saturday and just in the afternoon time at 2 o'clock, and it just worked out that they were available. I thought it would be a good game for us. Again, as I said, coming back from Texas just with the 3 games in 3 days, just kind of give you that little bit of that break. And you look at everyone's schedule about this time. After our game, Evansville goes on a 7 to 10 break. Talked to Brian Mullins this morning. SIU, they're on a week break. So it's kind of about that time that people start taking little breaks, little bye weeks, if you will, within their schedule, just how everything plays out. So it was good to get that game at home, and just coming off of that tournament, you never know how tournaments are going to go, and if you've got injuries and this, that, and the other. So it was a good time for that game. And
you guys are a little banged up.
We are. And Parker Long hasn't played since before Texas. Actually, the practice before he got kneed, and he's just kind of getting some range of motion back, and hopefully we can get him back Wednesday. Sam Thompson's been out with an ankle. Hopefully we get him back here in a week or two.
Nana
he probably could have played on Saturday, but it was one of those deals, dealing with a little bit of a bag. So it's like, trying to do what's best for him and what's best for the team, and trying to I don't want to say get through or get to Wednesday in Evansville, but again, you thought you'd be in a little bit better position or situation on Saturday where you maybe didn't need him or risk injuring him any further in that game. So that's where we're at. And not only for those games, Eric, what also it does is it hurts you in practice, because
Sure.
Now you're still dealing with, you got 10 or 11 guys, that you're trying to get practice in, and then you've got, Manny and Nate and Chase and Adam, and so you've got 11 of your guys, 5 of them are post guys. And so it starts to put a strain on you, especially as you get into later into the season, and guys' bodies and trying to be smart all the while keeping and staying in shape. And so there's always a dance that you got to play with that stuff, and it's why you see a lot of people with walk-ons and 15 or plus type players, just so you can have those bodies in practice.
Yeah, explain how important that is.
It is. Last year we had a guy by the name of Evan Morrison, obviously, that was on the roster, and he came every single day with great energy. It just gives you another body. Again, when you get in these situations, and every team goes through them throughout the season, no matter who you are or where you're at. So it's always nice just to have as many bodies as possible. We actually did some walk-on tryouts earlier in the year just to try to add some bodies, but again, just with the unknowns of everything still going on, we thought we were on the other side of COVID, but you're still not, and so it's like you're bringing somebody else into your team that could potentially have this, that, and the other, and just for whatever, we didn't end up taking anybody this year. Just felt it, and again, with the +1 COVID scholarship in Nolan Taylor, we had 14, and in a typical year you have 13. So just heading into the season, you thought you were going to be in good shape that way. Again, because no matter who you add there, you're always going to deal with another personality, another mouth to be fed, another guy wanting more playing time, and everything else like that. So we just decided to keep it where it was. But hopefully we'll get back better and healthy this week, and because it's a good stretch of games for us to finish off the non-con.
You've been around the game long enough to have seen plenty of walk-ons in your day. That's a tough gig, isn't it? It
is, because we don't treat anybody any different, and we don't treat, you're a walk-on, so stay on the sideline, don't say anything, just show up if we need you type thing. We give everybody, actually probably early in the year last year, I probably coached Evan harder than anybody, just because you see guys that really want to work, they do it for the right reasons. You see Coach Tuke in football, a lot of times he awards walk-on scholarships because they come in and they just want to work hard. They know exactly what their role is right away. They just want to work. They want to be part of a team. They know what the game can do for them outside of basketball. They know that they probably aren't going to the NBA or any of those types of things. They want to be part of a team. They want to help the university. They're obviously students, at SEMO or wherever they may be. So they're really there for the right reasons and really want to compete and play and help the team as much as possible. And a lot of that, they never get any recognition because they don't get in the games, but they're so critical to, you can ask any coach at any program at any level, just what value they bring. And not only that, but since you brought it up, Eric, managers too. The managers do all the work that gets done behind the scenes. They're kind of like the statistics that don't show up that matter in a game. Your walk-ons, your managers, those types of guys really help a program roll, especially for us at our level, because we don't have as many of the positions that the high majors and the Power Fives have. So those walk-ons and managers really help make a program run.
And oftentimes, people who work behind the scenes like that, even director of ops who is in charge of all of the travel and getting the hotel keys all set up for when you get off the bus and having every meal run flawlessly, a lot of times those people don't get recognition until something goes wrong.
Yeah,
and then you're like, what happened here, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's an unsung type job.
It is, and it's very time consuming, and again, only problems can happen. It's somewhat like when my phone rings, it's like, okay, what problem is it? Because I get all the problems, and same thing with the operations guys. Like, only something can go wrong. When things go right, no one says anything. It's just like when you win basketball games, everyone's like, oh yeah, you guys are great, you won, and it covers up a lot of the flaws that you have. And then when you lose, you feel terrible. So it's kind of the same thing with the operations position and those other positions. There's no glory in it. But again, it's so important, because if those things don't go right, you can't focus on the things that you really got to focus on, because you're taking your time and your energy away from what really needs to get done.
So when you play a team that is not Division I, and in this case, usually you're playing either an NAIA or a Division II. Rarely do you play a Division III, but that's what you played with Webster University. How difficult is it to really get everybody to buy in that they have to absolutely play their best game, because, they're 18 to 22 years old and they know, hey, this is a team that we should beat? Well, I know coaches don't think that way, but a lot of times athletes think that way.
Yeah, and I think you saw that a little bit in the way that we played on Saturday, to be quite honest with you. No take anything away or no disrespect to Webster, but I thought we kind of played that way a little bit in that game. Just in the whole practice leading up to it was, we were just talking about, we weren't necessarily playing Webster, we were playing the game of basketball. And everything's going to be on film, and we're working to get better as the season goes on, because you're never a finished product. And so that was really the message that we tried to hammer home to the guys. But at the end of the day, you can't you can't get inside of 18 and 22-year-olds' heads all the way and what they're thinking, and there is always going to be a little bit of that human nature. You saw it again at the beginning of the year. We played so well against Missouri State, and then sometimes you just come back and think, oh, well, we're at home, we'll be fine. We just played really well 2 days ago. And again, it doesn't matter if it's Webster, it doesn't matter if it's Missouri State, if you played a terrible game, a good game. College basketball doesn't care, and it's all about consistency and what you do in practice and what you can do from day to day to day over the long haul that really – you look back and that's really what you were. It's not just singular moments. It's all those days that you put together. So that week of practice leading into Webster, that was really the main focus of that. We're trying to play the game of basketball. We're trying to play SEMO every single day to get better for us and what we need to do as a team. And I think we did it in moments, but we didn't do it for the full 40 minutes like I thought we could. You can blame and make a lot of excuses if you want. Oh, you only had 8 players and this, that, and the other. But a lot of the stuff that we got beat on was more of effort in our own mental approach, I think.
Something else, when you play an NAIA program, you're playing oftentimes against athletes that probably were Division I, or if academics were a little different, they probably are Division I athletes, but academically, it's a lower standard at NAIA. Oftentimes guys land there. So, oftentimes you play an NAIA school. I know they weren't, but you could be playing Division I athletes.
Yeah, you could, and there's different rules for them as well. So you could have a guy out there 24, 25 years old sometimes, and so the other thing too, I'll say for Missouri Baptist and Webster is you're talking about 2 schools and programs in the St. Louis area that obviously coming down here to play is their Super Bowl. It's the highlight of their season. So you're always going to someone's always going to play above their level. And again, the message to the guys is, if we just show up and play, and we can probably just show up and play and beat Mobap and Webster, and that's not what we're trying to do. We have bigger things that we're trying to accomplish. So that was the message of trying to play the game of basketball the right way, to have good video, to have good habits, to have good everything that our approach to it, so that now we can come in and we're not behind this week in practice for Evansville.
So 26 points for Eric Reed. Really good to see him knocking down his shot, because you could tell there was a stretch there where he hit about 3 threes in a row. He was really feeling it against Webster.
Yeah, he let out a couple yells, and I think it finally felt good for him to get the cap off, because we did not shoot the three well. That game, we had good looks. Like we said after the post game, I think there was probably only 2 shots that I thought were a little bit forced. We could have moved the ball a little bit more, and I don't remember exactly what the total was on the threes, but
6 for 32.
Yeah, it just was one of our worst shooting performances, really. But again, I thought we got good shots. I thought Chris had good looks. Phil had a couple good looks. DQ had a good look. Dylan had 2 great looks. So it's just, if we take good shots, I think over the long haul, over the course of it, we'll be fine in that regard. But it's when we don't, when we self-implode, or we rush, or we just force things because it hasn't gone well for the first couple. And we talked about it after the postgame as well. Nigel started out 0 for 3, and then he started driving to the basket. And so it's like you got to figure things out. Every game's a little bit different. But I think that we're a better shooting team, obviously, than what we showed the other day. And, again, I thought we took some good shots. But Eric definitely got it going there in that little stretch, which, again, if those things go in the first half, you're not sitting there thinking, like, well, what's going on?
Right.
Obviously, it helps create a little bit of that separation.
Well, for anybody that didn't watch the game, if they just looked at a box score and said, man, you shot 32 3-pointers, you had to have watched the game, because there were so many of them that were good looks. And, we kind of talked about it during the radio broadcast of the game and ESPN Plus. I think there are a lot of those shots you would be upset if they didn't take those shots, because they were so good and they came within the offense.
Yeah, and I think we tell guys all the time, there's no more open than open. And so now if you don't take an open shot and try and create another shot, and Dylan kind of got into this last year. If you remember, he'd be open, he wouldn't shoot, and then we'd start driving and passing it around a little bit more, and all of a sudden you lead with a turnover. It's like, well, you got a turnover because you didn't take the shot that was open at the time that it was open. And it's that fine balance, Eric, because you got to find, could we have driven down the court, made one pass and shot a 3 and called it a good shot? Probably. But the shots that we did get in that game, it was within the offense. The ball did move a little bit, and now you have to take those shots. And sometimes you're not going to shoot it well enough, but that's why you have to – the game of basketball is so beautiful, because there's so many other things you can do outside of just making shots or just making 3-pointers that you can have an impact on the game. We got out-rebounded, and we didn't have to make a 3 at all on Saturday, and we still could have won the game if we had dominated the glass. So there's so many other things that you can do within the game of basketball to impact the game and impact winning. We can't live and die on every 3-pointer that we make or miss.
Yeah, the old saying, live by the three, die by the three.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to die by the three. So when you go back and watch video of Webster and you see that they out-rebounded you, you know, what's your game plan after that?
We'll show them. We'll show the guys today, because I think sometimes when you get in the heat of the game, you're just like, well, I didn't do that, or this guy didn't move over this way, or you know, you may be thinking things in your own mind that you don't see, and then now when you go back and you see it on film, you're like, oh, okay. Now I have to make that adjustment myself, and I'll do it today in practice, type of a thing. So we'll watch film, we'll show it, we'll highlight it. You know, we talk to the guys all the time about it. I was listening to the Peyton Manning and Eli broadcast on the Monday night stuff, and they had Russell Wilson on there. This was like the second week, and in Seattle with Pete Carroll, they have what they call the Tell the Truth Mondays, and then when they go in the film room and they just tell each other the truth and what it is, and you own it and you get better from it and you move on. So we'll do that today with film, and then briefly, because we have to correct us. You know, before you can ever go get in and jump into Evansville, you have to. You know, we're the guys that are in practice every single day with each other. We're the ones running offense together, defense together. Yes, we'll do a scouting report for Evansville, but if we just go and jump and spend all of our time on Evansville, then SEMO's never going to get better. Or, you know, we're going to let things slip on our end. So we'll address that with Webster, the things that we need to get better at. Obviously, the rebounding, we'll see it, how we had multiple guys in there, how we didn't leave our feet to jump to get rebounds, which is extremely hard to do. You can't just let balls come to you to go get rebounds. Sometimes you just got to go grab it. And so we'll address that. We'll watch it, see it, own it, you know, take accountability for it, and then go practice and move on to Evansville a little bit later in the practice.
You know, when you have video for players to watch, there's another one of the unsung heroes behind the scenes. Who is your video person? Who is putting those packages together for the players and for the coaches?
Yeah, Colin, our graduate assistant, Colin Jasper, does a lot of video type stuff, but he helps each assistant with the clips and the scouting reports, and but the assistants do a lot of they'll clip it up themselves. And typically what happens is, so whatever assistant had the scout that day, that night or the next day or whatever the case may be, he'll be the one going back and kind of clipping it up and tagging it. They call it tagging to, let's say Chris Harris is involved in a play. They'll click his button. There's a program and there's a button that you literally just click. It captures that moment, and then you click the button again, and then it pulls that particular clip into Chris Harris's little box, if you will, if that's trying to find an easy way to describe it, but that's basically what it's basically what it is. And so now we just build this long library for each individual player that they can come up and watch film individually of themselves on top of the team film that we watch. And Colin and the other assistants do a great job of cutting that stuff up.
So your years as an assistant, how much video did you cut up?
Quite a bit, especially the years at SIU when we didn't have an operations guy, we didn't have a video guy. You kind of had to do it all. A little bit different at K-State because you have your own particular person that was designated just for video. He's the video coordinator, and he did
Budget's a little different at K-State.
A little different. But he would be a little bit at K-State, a little bit more in charge of working ahead, you know, because even as an assistant when we had our scouts, it's like it's still all on you as far as the game plan goes, and Coach Weber would give us a lot of freedom with that. So you're still watching all the video. He's just more of you're more of directing and telling him what to put in, as opposed to here and when the other years and other places I've been as an assistant where you just did it all yourself.
So it's been a little while for you doing video. You haven't done that in a while.
Well, I've watched the video, but the cutting up and all that, staying up till 12, 1, all that stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit different. I spend an hour here with you instead of cutting up Evansville tape.
So you can also the players can log in anytime they want, even from their phones or tablets. They can log in and start watching video, and then coaches can monitor who is and who is not watching enough video.
Yeah, there's actually been a time we've got a group chat with our team, and you know when guys are ready to go and when they're locked into what game is about to be on, because sometimes there's been guys will get in the group chat and say, hey, coach, the film isn't up yet, you know, and we'll be 3 days out of an opponent. So that's when you know guys are really like thinking about it and paying attention to it.
You like getting texts like that?
Yeah, those are good ones.
Yeah.
You know, you wish they happened all the time. And, but it's the technology part of it has really, really changed in a short amount of time. Like any industry and every business has really over the last decade. I know when I was cutting up tape before, when I was an assistant when I first started, it was the double-decker VCRs. And there was no – you couldn't –
dub it?
Yeah.
Right.
You had to hit record on this one, play on this one, fast forward, get to the, and it just was, and then it was a physical VHS tapes. And so times have changed and they've made things way more streamlined. It's much easier. Everything's accessible. These guys can go on to Synergy, is another program that's out there, and the NBA uses it a lot. And every game is broken down and clipped up when you wake up the next morning, just for the general public can do it. You obviously have to have a password and all that stuff, but you can go in and look at clips. I can go back in there and look at a clip from 7-8 years ago of a specific play. As coaches are a little bit different. We can say, that happened about the 12-minute mark 8 years ago against this play, and then you can go back and look at what was that play. So technology has really changed that, and fortunately these guys can't get on there and see any of my games because it wasn't around then.
So were you a coach as far back as the old grab the VHS tape, drive 2 hours, make the film exchange with another assistant coach, and come back with film?
Yep. Actually, one particular time I drove from Carbondale to Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Man, that's a long drive.
Yeah, it was about 4.5 maybe one way. So it was 8-9 hour drive when I was a graduate assistant.
So Western Kentucky University.
Yeah,
right?
I forget who they played, or maybe we were playing them, and the coaches had got together and said, we'll just exchange this film, because there was only like a 2-day gap in between, and snail mail, by the time you waited for that film to show up, you weren't going to get it in time, and so the only way to get it in the time that you needed was to go grab it. And even actually in the conference there was a rule that you could only exchange 2 VH tapes with each opponent. And so it's like,
really?
So you're at Evansville, and it's like, okay, well, which 2 games? You would choose the 2 games that you would want from Evansville that they had to send you. But I only got 2 from you, and then I got 2 from them and 2 from them. That's how you had to. So you had to get out this spreadsheet and kind of highlight. Well, this game's on ESPNU, so we can record that one on our VCR. So we don't need to ask them for that game. We'll ask them for this game. Well, we play on this date and this date. Well, let's get their 2 games before we play, because it's a close window of when we play them back to back. And so there was a whole different. Now every game's on Synergy, and it's there for you right in the morning when you wake up. So they've eliminated all that.
But I would think that if you've got a night off and an opponent is playing a game on ESPN Plus, you're probably gonna you or at least one of your assistant coaches probably gonna tune in and take a look, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, coaches-wise, we talked about managers and ops guys, but coaches-wise are also the heroes, because I'll go home tonight and I'll put on ESPN Plus, and I'll probably watch some Fort Wayne game, because we play them on Saturday, or SIU will be on, or whoever, some common opponent that we'll have somewhere on the line, and we'll just sit there and watch that. So you're just kind of getting familiar and have an idea, even though you're not sitting down and diving into that particular team at that moment, you're still getting an idea of it. But nowadays with the ESPN Plus and every game is in that library, it's just, I go home, and unfortunately for my wife, there's no other shows. She's got to sit there and watch some what are they called? What's Fort Wayne? The Elephants?
Mastodons.
So it's like she's watching some Mastodon basketball on a random Tuesday night. So they also are the unsung heroes.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any question about that. ESPN Plus is a cool thing, isn't it? Because I mean, you can almost literally see any game that you want to watch.
Yeah, even our games, a lot of times Coach Weber would always take the iPad home after games. The video guy would download the game that we just played onto his iPad, and he would take the iPad home. Well, I can just go home and just pull it up on the TV. You don't even have to have, the iPad or a computer to watch the games. Sure. We've got smart TV, so you just go home and you can watch the game that we just played at home. And